Alright, we're going to try a new camera angle here. This is where we're at. I'm going to bring it in, just do some little bit of hammerstone work. And right now, maybe some pressure, but right now I'm just trying to establish some more convexity because I kind of got a little excited with that shaft punch and went a little nuts. And now I have a pretty flat piece. I think I could probably, maybe on this face, get a flute to here right now. But on this face, definitely not. It would probably step out. So I got to get rid of this little ridge here. And in general, I mean, like compared to the casts of the authentic pieces, this one's really wide. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it in a little bit, and you know, hopefully not break it. Took a little hammerstone flake there. Clean up the edge. Another one right there. Just some small little flakes to establish a little more convexity here. I think with fluting, one of the biggest things I've learned, like I haven't made a ton of Clovises, and I also haven't been napping with just antler and stone for very long. Like I started experimenting and got some, you know, one of my friend and mentors gave me some billets a while back when I was studying experimental archaeology and working on my degree, and I never finished my degree. I'm going back for it here soon, but that's besides the point. I went to visit him, and he had been napping with antler and, you know, napping in general a lot longer than I had. And so I went to visit him, and I didn't bring my copper, and he was like, all right, here's some Keokuk, and here's some, you know, moose antler billets and a hammerstone. I'm going to be back in a couple hours, you know. If you have any problems, you know, come see me once you made a biface, basically. And boy, that was just like the learning curve on this stuff. If you get hung up on copper, it just puts you in such a hole. At least that's my opinion. Like right now, I'm having a much easier time transferring over, but part of that is one, I sacrificed a lot of rock, like some nice pieces, and I broke some really nice pieces to learn these techniques, right? Like that's huge. You can't just break the like in the past I would, like, you know, whatever, do a little thinning, maybe try some rocker punch action, and then when I got into a tough spot or like I was getting frustrated, I would break the copper back out, you know, and that's not how you learn. And I remember hearing Marty talk about this in one of his videos, and he was like, you know, you gotta put your copper away, and you can't dig yourself out of a hole when you put yourself there and break the copper out. You need to figure out how to get yourself out of that problem with the tools that you have, right? And with the hammerstone and the antler or the punches or the ivory or the bone or whatever you're using. So anyways, that's what I've been doing, and it can be really frustrating and really challenging, and by no means am I super good at this, but that's part of the reason I'm posting this video. One reason is that I want to start doing videos is one, I do teach some beginning flint napping, and I want my students to have a reference, right? That's like one reason. Oof. Hold on, broke my hammerstone. This is like my favorite new hammerstone. I'm pinching the platform right underneath it. That way it doesn't crumble from the hammerstone, and it pushes a flake, and that's our nice little flake right there. Anyway, sorry, I had to focus there for a second. So yeah, so I wanted to post it so my students could see, and then number two, I just wanted to get involved. Like I just joined Paleo Planet, and I just want to be a part of the napping community, as silly as that might sound, but I feel like I've just been isolating myself for all these years and kind of hanging out in my own little community of nappers, and ultimately, like, nobody's doing abo, nobody's doing that stuff, and sometimes I go to gatherings and a couple of nap-ins, but ultimately, you know, it's like I gotta interact with you guys, and I gotta get out there, and I gotta talk to the guys who are better and ask people like Marty and questions, and, you know, just to try and develop my own skills a little bit better. That was nice. We had a little funky spot there, like a full-on like micro hinge kind of thing going on step, and this hammerstone went right under it. I kind of pinched just above it, and so I'm happy to get that off the piece. But anyways, I just want to be part of the community, and I've been having a lot of fun. I went to Glass Buttes and met a guy named Lee Olson. He sent me a really nice really nice dacite slab. And so Lee, if you ever are watching this, thank you for sending me that. I'm gonna make hopefully a nice hasket out of it if I don't break it. So there's our other little hammerstone flake. And anyways, yeah, and I just, I feel like, I'm not the greatest flint knapper in the world, that's for sure. I'm trying techniques that are largely I ripped from Marty, but a lot of them come, a lot of people use these techniques. It's just he was the first person I saw because he posts so many videos. Anyways, so I'm just trying to learn, and I'm trying to share that with you guys. And I know some of the stuff he does is he's supporting and creating edges that sometimes are above my head, and for some of you, you might just want to be you might just be getting started with stone tools and abo napping, and if you aren't, I'd encourage you to put down the copper and really give it a go. Sacrifice some rock and just get to know these tools, because at least I've found a much deeper fascination with edge work and body, and not focusing on just making this paper thin, perfectly flaked point, but instead, one of my mentors said, don't focus on the experts of today. Focus on the real experts, the ones who are making the artifacts that we're all trying to replicate and we're all trying to figure out. So that's what I've been doing. I've been buying casts. I've been doing all that stuff. And anyways, so I've been making thicker points and trying to work on making nice edges and lenticular cross sections. And boy, is that a lot harder than I ever imagined. And it's funny because I look at these casts and they're just so perfect. Like, they're thick, like when people look at them, they're like, boy, this is thick. But then when you look at the edges that these guys were making, you're like, oh my God, this is one of the most, perfectly lenticular, usable knives or spears that I've ever seen. And so I've been really inspired by that and really challenged by it as well. And so part of this is to document my journey for myself, and then part of it is to maybe share it with some of you who, have been, or like me, and have been napping with copper and have always kind of been like, man, I really want to be, abo napping, and but you're, too bummed out on your results to stick with it. And, by no means am I like super happy with this piece I'm working on right now, but I have to remind myself that I'm learning, and I'm going to be learning for a long time. And, most of the stuff I make it and I'm like, man, this is cool. And then a couple hours later, I'm like, this kind of sucks. Or like 2 weeks later, I'm like, all right, I'm throwing this in the garbage because I've gotten way better. And it's interesting how that works. And, I haven't just been napping for like a year or 2 years. I've been napping for over 10 years. And so it never stops. And I've never done any flake over grind, and I've worked very few I've worked some slabs, but I've always been into making tools and reducing my tools from cores or spalls, and just seeing the flakes, and I don't know. I heard something that Freeze Crack said. I know I'm dropping all the YouTube guys' names, but he mentioned, like, focus on making nice flakes, and that was something that really resonated with me, because I wasn't focusing on making nice flakes. I was focusing on just like a means to an end, right? Like getting to the end result, when ultimately you really have to appreciate, like, for example, what I'm doing right now, you have to think about it and go, okay, these blenders are looking really nice. Like, I'm going to try and take a flake that maybe gets into here. And in the large scheme of things, yeah, that's a really small flake, and you're not going to be hitting it, swinging for the fences or anything like that. But that little flake can be the difference between your point looking, haggard, or looking really nice and authentic, or if you're going for the really contemporary, like, too perfect look, the kind of flake over grind thing, then that's also, you're not just pushing one pass of flakes over and calling it done. Like, all of the napping is hard, regardless of how you do it, and it's important to respect everyone and their art form and their techniques. And this is a human skill, and it's something that I think is important, at least to just kind of, if you're interested in this stuff, at least to just kind of check it out and challenge yourself. Because I know for me, I didn't challenge myself very much for first few years, and I stayed in my comfort zone, and I was really unhappy with what I was producing, and ultimately, you know, I was making a lot of like small arrowheads and stuff like that, and you know, now I'm branching out. Like, I haven't made a million Clovises, but I'm taking my time with this one and videoing it, and you know, trying to show you guys. And I'm not doing the best job of explaining exactly what I'm hitting and why, but I think it's important just to watch and see how much of napping is just these small brushing flakes and adjustments. Like, that's another thing I've learned from watching these guys who are so good, is a huge part of this is just these little brushing flakes. It's not about like taking these massive flakes every time. You have to set up for those flakes. And we're getting pretty close here. I'm going to take a little pass on this face and then turn the edge and take a pass over here, and I think we'll have enough convexity to flute. But I got to turn my camera off because now we're at 10 minutes and this might not upload. Here's a quick view of what we're working on.